What's up, everybody? I'm Dave Miranda, and this is episode 119 of Just Give Me Five. I hope you guys are doing great, continue to be amazing. We got a really awesome show lined up for you today. But first things first, I need you to hit that like button, I need you to hit that subscribe, and I need you to spread the word about Just Give Me Five. All right. Now, if you guys caught episode 118, you saw we had none other than the one and only Travis Thurman. And let me tell you, that's my purple brother right there for real, man. You know what I'm saying? That is my prince. You know, man, I'm telling you, man, the Purple Pages of AZ is honestly like just such a, phenomenal group, and I'm just so happy to be a part of it. And just salute to Travis for starting something like that. I mean, just a really good guy right there, man. Real good human being, and I was so glad we were able to have him on here, get him to tell his story. Especially in comedy, sharing some amazing stories from the comedy scene back in the 80s. And everything that's transitioned from then on, him being in television, just awesome stuff, man. So make sure you guys watch episode 118. All right. But today's guest is an absolute legend in the music scene and the radio scene of Arizona, and definitely deserves his flowers. We're going to talk about how he got into music. We're also going to talk about how he got into radio, as well as working for the one and only Friday Night Flavas. Some incredible moments, and so much more. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you Squeek Boogie.
What's up? I am Squeek Boogie, and all I'm saying is just give me five.
All right, man, let's do it. Yeah, we got no win. We are good to go. All right, let's do it, man. Question number one. So when did you decide to get into music?
I decided to get into music right around the time I realized I wasn't getting any taller.
Okay.
I was pretty much equally into sports and music, and there was at one point I was really trying with the sports stuff, and then when I realized that was pretty much not going to go anywhere, I just switched gears and focused on music. I mean, because music was always a big part of my life. I come from a very musical family. It was on my mom's side. Like, she's one of 9, and they all do something. They either sing, play an instrument, whatever. So I've just always been surrounded by music. And so when the sports thing kind of fizzled out, I mean, I dabbled a little myself with playing piano and drums when I was little. And then that turned into like the movie Juice, and Jazzy Jeff made me want to become a DJ. So I started saving up, for my first set of turntables.
Okay.
And then, yeah, shortly after that, I got with some like-minded cats in high school with my first little group, producing and DJing with them.
What was the name of that group?
We were the Soul Controllers.
Soul Control.
Very heavily influenced by Wu-Tang at the time. I mean, it was the mid-90s, you know what I mean? It was basically like Wu-Tang, Nas, Boot Camp, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Shout out to them still. Sarcasm, Marvin Jr., Mark, those are still my guys, man. And yeah, there's still, a couple of them are still doing music, so I love it.
So you guys started doing that, and then so that's at school. So it was DJing that you were like, that gravitated you first?
Definitely. I just thought it looked really cool, and I wanted to try to get good at it.
Yeah.
I was so excited to get into it that I started buying vinyl before I even had turntables. Definitely a little bit of the
Like manifesting it, huh?
Yeah, basically. In fact, I used to hang out at Circles Records on the weekends as much as I could,
Right.
blowing my my little part-time job money there, and
Yeah, man.
knowing that Robbie Rob was there, and I had I knew who he was because he was on the radio doing underground shows with Fashion. And towards like the back half of high school, I tried to make extra money slinging mixtapes.
Okay.
It was cool for some lunch money, nothing crazy.
Right.
And it was good practice. And then that led to doing a couple house parties
Yeah.
and stuff like that, but nothing crazy. And then right around that time when I was with that group in high school, I kind of switched gears to producing, and I just kind of fell in love with it, and that kind of like took my focus away from DJing a little bit, and I was just all in on the production tip. So
Was your DJ name Squeek Boogie?
No, that didn't come till later.
Okay. What was your DJ name?
I didn't really. I mean, so in that group in high school, I went by Manifest.
Manifest. Oh wow. Okay.
Which I don't know why it just sounded like an underground hip hop name at the time.
Right.
So I rocked with that for a little while, but yeah, the Squeek Boogie thing came later. Like maybe 98, 99, I got my first MPC and just went to town on it. You know, just Primo, RZA, Pete Rock, Prince Paul early on.
Yeah.
And then that kind of shifted to like Jay Dilla,
Right.
Havoc, Knots, love Knots.
Yeah.
And yeah, so those were kind of my inspirations. And obviously, you know, like the MPC doesn't come with any stock sounds or anything. So it's just a blank slate. So like I had to go raiding family members' records and CD collections, just trying to find samples to work with. So, but that's how I got my licks in though, you know, just trying to practice basically. My mom definitely has some good taste in music.
Okay.
So I definitely was exposed to, you know, like Earth, Wind and Fire, Stevie Wonder, all that kind of stuff. And that's really where I fell in love with it first. I was definitely looking for soul at first and foremost, a little bit of classical and some classic rock, but soul and jazz though, that was like where it was at for me. That was my favorite to work with.
Were you guys rocking any shows with the group though?
With the high school group, we only did like 2 shows.
Okay.
I mean, it was rough because like we were just kids, like we didn't have any connections yet or anything.
Right, exactly.
Matter of fact, one of them was at the Mason Jar,
Okay.
which is, I mean, when it was called that, I think it's the Rebel Lounge now, but
Right.
and look, I mean, yeah, it was tough at the time trying to get any type of gig at that age.
Yeah.
We weren't even really old enough to be in spots,
Exactly.
really. You know what I'm saying? And I was the oldest one, so some of those guys were like 2 years younger than me even.
Right.
It was rough. I ended up meeting Little Sean out at like a van stop when he was doing the Flavor unit with Power. He was working at Power. And one thing led to another, and I played him my beat tape, and he liked it apparently. I mean, looking back now, I think that tape is horrible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm thankful and blessed that he thought it was dope at the time, because he immediately called his roommate, who was a producer as well.
Okay.
And he was like, yo, I think we should mess with this kid. And so they brought me in. Like the associates had already just been newly formed, so I was kind of like the last one.
And who was all part of the associates?
So Fade was the producer DJ. And then on the mic we had Poke and Cash, which was No Question, Mega and Vina, and Adam Bomb.
Now, during that time, you know, like you guys were rocking a lot of shows out here. Because at that time, TMC Presents was heavy. Yes. So I'm sure, you know what I mean?
And with the Poker Face connection with Ty and No Question and everything, we kind of had it in. So we luckily got to open up for almost every major hip hop act that came through for like a 3-year period. It was crazy.
Nice,
it was crazy.
What was one of the, like, if you could think, like, what's one of the most proudest shows, like, that you guys did, that you got to open up for? You're like, man, I remember that night.
Probably D12 at the Smoke Fest at the Coliseum. But there was Ghostface, Common, not at the Smoke Fest, but like other shows that we got to. I mean, it was just crazy, like being on stage, you know, sharing the same stage with some of these cats.
That's awesome, man. And then, so how long did that run go for with the associates?
Probably at least 02, 03, because things started to kind of morph. Like Pope got his deal, his major deal, so we were working on his solo project. We kind of joined forces with some cats from this group called 10 Commandments, which was like Mike Life, Flossie, Emmy. So I started working with those guys too. And then I even kept in touch with a few cats from high school and started working on some stuff with them.
And so if you had to pick out of the two, what brings you more joy, DJing or producing?
Definitely producing. Yeah. I just love creating something from scratch, you know.
Absolutely.
Even because the dope thing about producing is that even if it doesn't end up with lyrics, it still could stand on its own, you know what I mean? But I also approach making music from a DJ mindset, since that kind of came first, and that actually kind of helps a little bit, obviously, with like rhythms and arrangements, and like knowing, I kind of think about like, what should this finished product sound like, and like how would a DJ play it, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Intros and outros and things like that, so it all kind of goes hand in hand.
Tell us how radio became part of your life.
Well, obviously, radio as a kid is how you're introduced to a lot of music. You know what I'm saying? Just whether it's on a boombox or in the car or whatever. So radio was always kind of around me, and I just kind of fell in love with the medium. You know what I mean? Like the idea of being a disc jockey, playing music for people, entertaining people. I was just always into that. I didn't really think of it as a career though until after high school, and I just needed something to do. Like I literally needed a job to make money while I was pursuing music. And rather than just like working at the Best Buy or a movie theater or something, I was like, what could I do that actually seemed like fun? So I had a summer job right after my senior year, and it shared a parking lot with a radio broadcasting school that I had no idea existed. So I was like, it just felt like fate, you know what I mean? Like I walked out, there it is. I'm like, all right, let me see what's up. So I went in and I did a couple cold reads, which is what they call like when they give you a script, like a commercial script, and you just read it without giving it a look over, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just raw. And so I did that. Apparently they were at least a little impressed with it. So I ended up going to that school, and it was a shorter program than like a 4-year university would be, and it's like real hands-on, like part of schooling, like you were literally doing like mock air shifts and getting critiqued and everything, learning how to cut commercials from scratch, voice and the production, all that stuff. So this was a pretty dope school though, and I got a lot of good hands-on experience there. They had once a week lectures from people in the business, so it was always somebody local, and it was cool. But so your final assignment before you can graduate is you have to on your own go out and interview somebody in the biz, and they don't help you set it up or anything. So after meeting Little Sean at that van stop, I just basically asked him, like, hey man, like I know this is gonna sound weird, but can I interview you like for my school? And he was like, yeah, no problem, come up to the building. So that interview was my first time stepping foot inside the Power building, which was not tight or glamorous at all. I mean, it sounded like $1 million on the air, but then when you see it and you're walking through the halls, you're like, this is Power? Like it was.
They called it the crack house.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna go there, but that is what it was. It was pretty bad. We had banners hanging in awkward spots because they were covering holes in the drywall. It was just crazy. So we did that interview, and then like a week or two later, I technically graduated, if you will, from that school. And Sean basically helped me get a gig at Power. I mean, that was always my goal. But at the radio school, they kind of laughed it off like, yeah, good luck, kid. Like everybody wants to work at Power. So I thought I was going to have to get a job board opping at like an AM station, just, doing talk radio or something behind the scenes to work my way up. I didn't think I'd be able to get in right out the gate like that. So the production director at the time was this dude named Mark Casoli. Shout out to him. He took a chance on me. I mean, Lil Sean obviously vouched for me, but, he did the hiring and whatever. So it started out like, I wouldn't say rough, but it just wasn't like super cool right off the bat. You know what I mean? It was a lot of grunt work, doing dubs, like recording commercials into the system, no voice work whatsoever. Paying dues, like 10 to 15 hours a week tops. But yeah, shout out to Bruce St. James, Charlie Weddle, Mikey Mike. They were all in positions at elevated positions there at the time, and they just, I don't know, they believed in me and let me get more and more responsibility. And eventually I was the production director of Power by age like 22, 23.
Nice. So how did Friday Night Flavas come about?
I can tell you at least my iteration of it, because the crazy thing is I was actually listening to Flavas when I was still in high school, because Little Sean and Double A.
I mean in regards of like you being on board.
Yeah. Because it was Little Sean and Double A Ron, and then it was Karina and Robbie. And I don't know what happened there with that change. I was a Power employee at the time, but I don't know what happened. I just know it was changing. We were gonna keep the name, but like new hosts or whatever. So Chino, who was already there doing, I forget what day part he was doing, but he was already on board. Lil Sean was already there. They decided they were gonna do Flavas with DJ Fashion, Robbie Rob, and I was like 8 or 9 months into the gig, and of course Lil Sean was like, yo, you should be on the show with us. You don't need, if you don't want to talk, that's cool, but just, you can help. That's kind of where I picked up like some of my imaging chops, and like just being third mic and just talking when I could. And so we were the Fab Five on Friday Night Flavas for a while. Till Matlock's came. Yeah, because by '02, I think Chino and Little Sean had already went to another station. And that's kind of when it just kind of fell on me and Matt. You know, we obviously wanted to keep the show going. Bruce St. James was all about it too. We had to get permission from him, obviously, because Chino and Sean were kind of like, you know, at least higher ranking on the mic, so to speak. Like, so without them, it was kind of like, are you sure you guys can do this kind of thing? And we were like, yeah, of course, like, no problem. So, yeah, we just took the torch and ran with it and just had some fun playing underground hip hop.
What's one of your like most memorable moments from Flavas?
Probably the 6-year anniversary.
Yeah, man, talk about it.
I mean, we had the bright idea to just have every local MC that we know in the building at the same time, and just try to put them on the air and talk to them and have freestyle sessions throughout the night. I mean, on paper it sounded good, and I'm not saying it wasn't, but it was a hectic night. But it was obviously just crazy memorable too, and it was just, yeah, epic from start to finish. Yeah, and we were live. There was nothing pre-taped at all.
Right.
So yeah, and obviously like Matt couldn't leave the studio because he was like first mic.
Yeah.
And so I'm the one that's bouncing around like trying to keep some of the guests in order. And then a lot of people didn't realize that I was editing songs on the fly too back then. It wasn't necessarily something we didn't design it that way.
Yeah.
But you know how it is with local cats. They bring you the CD and be like, yo, I got my new single, can you play it?
19 F-bombs.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, cool, you got the radio edit? And they're like, what? And I'm like, oh, so
at that time.
Yeah, so I'd be sitting in a side studio editing all the curses while Matt's live on the air with y'all, and then every time I'd get a new one done, I have to render it, give it to the DJ, tell him play this one next. It was a wild night to just keep everything in order.
Who was one guest that like from you know working on Flavas that really stood out to you where you're like, man, that we did that?
Yeah, we had a lot of people. I'm trying to think, like DJ Quick definitely stands out because that was one where we always slot people for like 15 minutes because you never know. But he was one of the cats, and he wasn't the only one to do this, but he was one of the ones that ended up, after our segment with him, he just didn't want to leave.
Just chilling. Yeah,
just chilling.
Say that. I've seen that in other interviews of him. He just
chills.
Chills.
I mean, I soaked up so much game from him without even knowing, because obviously I looked up to him crazy as a producer.
Of course.
So he was breaking down a lot of stuff, like analog versus digital and all these little techniques and stuff, and it was just like free game. It was crazy. He was just such a good dude. Tech 9 was the same way, super down to earth, just really good dude. And like early on in the Fab 5 days, we had Dave Chappelle on, like, because he was in town doing the Celebrity Theater. But this was like 2 years before his Comedy Central show.
Wow.
So I'm not saying he wasn't like big, like he was big as an actor, comedian.
He was like half-baked Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, he wasn't like, the Comedy Central thing skyrocketed him, but this was right before that. So he was just another down-to-earth cat that was just like hanging out with because he loves the music.
You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah.
And obviously, you know, he's ahead. So when he heard we were playing, he was like, they let y'all play this? Like, this is crazy. Right. So he just hung out because he was having a good time. Like, it was just such a crazy night, you know what I mean?
So, okay, so then Flavas, you know, has its demise, you know what I mean? It ends. Where do you go from there? So
towards like right around that 07, 08 period, probably like 08, Matt had already jumped over to 1015 Jams and started up Barbershop, or he started up Rhyme and Reason with Rock.
Yep.
So several months after he did that, I ended up doing the same thing kind of unexpectedly. So it was just a no-brainer. Like, he welcomed me on the show, and we just kind of picked up where we left off. I mean, new station, new name, but same vibe, you know what I mean? Like, that's just what we wanted to do. Yeah, so after Rhyme and Reason didn't end, by the way, but like my time there ended because the economy and budget cuts and all that.
Yeah.
So I got let go. I immediately go to the beat and try to help him out with some imaging and whatever, and then me and Lil Sean came up with the idea for that Barbershop Radio, and we pitched it, they loved it, and they put us on. So Saturday nights, we did that for like 2.5 years. After the Barbershop thing, I ended up, I knew Lady Law from like 05, 06, like when she was an intern and then transitioned to being like on the morning show with the Nuts and all that. So, but by the time I was done with Barbershop, she was holding down mornings all by herself on jams. And like she didn't even have a producer or anything. I don't think she even had a co-host at the time. And so we got to talking, and she, you know, wanted me as her producer. So I just had to meet the right people and put a resume together just as a formality. But that's kind of how that happened. So I produced the Lady Law show in the morning for about 3 years. Okay. And then I switched over to Cool 94.5 and did, I produced the Maria and Chad morning show for a couple years. And then after that, it turned into the Nico show, which was the most recent iteration. So I did morning radio for like 12 years as a producer and third mic. Okay. And that was fun. I mean, it was obviously way different than hip hop radio, but it was like, I feel like a lot of stuff that I had done early on in my career was like leading to that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like knowing how to produce a show and stuff. And like, I had soaked up a lot of game from Joey and Johnny, the Nuts at Power, like the way they ran their afternoon show and their morning show. Like I just kind of unknowingly, so to speak, kind of like soaked up a lot of game from them. And so yeah, it was cool. Mornings was fun. Waking up at 3:30 was not fun. But the rest of it was dope. Yeah, so now I'm the imaging director at Live 101.5 and Big 94.5. Not Cool anymore, it's Big. So, and like imaging is all the stuff that you hear in between the records that's not a commercial, like the stuff that identifies the station. Right. So I do that kind of production and stuff. And then on Live 101.5, on top of that, I'm actually the station voice as well, and I've been doing that for like 10 years. All
right, who are some of your biggest musical influences?
Well, listening-wise, I would say like I love 70s soul, funk, and jazz and that kind of stuff, and then and that's kind of like the building blocks for me. Like that's, I don't know what it is. Like I know it predates me, but like that stuff just.
Teddy Pendergrass, Connor.
Yeah, anything like that. It's just, I love it. And so that's kind of like what, but then transitioning, obviously a lot of hip hop was built on that stuff. So like hip hop wise, like a lot of my favorite producers were sampling those cats. So like, you know, RZA, Pete Rock with the soul stuff, Just Blaze and Kanye obviously took that torch and kind of ran with it. So like, all that, you know what I mean? They basically, that was like my blueprint, you know?
Yeah, man. Who were some, now I'm looking at the shirt, who were some of your 90s R&B like inspirations, like production-wise?
Oh, production-wise?
We could do groups all day, but I want to keep it on a production.
Production-wise, probably, like definitely Teddy, Devontae, of course. Babyface, of course.
Dallas Austin.
Yeah. New Jack Swing. I'm a big fan of in general. Right. So like that whole subsection of 90s R&B, like I could listen to that all day.
So when you take a lot of those influences, you understand Squeek Boogie's production more.
Yeah, definitely. You know what I mean? Yeah, I no matter what I do, like when I'm making my own stuff, like I always try to have some kind of like soulful element to it. Like I don't know, it just, that's what moves me, so.
Tell us one thing you'd like to be remembered for.
Now, there was definitely a long stretch where I would have said I would like to be remembered for the music that I'm making. Yeah. Like whether it's with local cats, my friends, whatever, or somehow landing a bigger placement on some big name artist album or whatever. But at this point, I think I would definitely, hopefully, be known as a good father. I have a daughter, Layla. She absolutely changed the course of my life. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of gives you a different drive. You know what I mean? Like, when you're hustling, trying to like make something happen, when you have like a little mouth to feed. Yeah. So, but then on top of that, she's like mad creative and artistic. You know what I'm saying? Which she's 15 now. And these last couple years, I saw so much in her that reminded me of me at that age, except that I think she's actually like a little further than I was. She plays piano, violin. She's artistic, like drawing wise. Like she's a real creative person, and I just absolutely love that about her. And I mean, I keep telling her too, like she's been watching me do my thing, like beat wise, like literally been in the room sometimes while I'm making beats. Okay. And I always tell her, like, if you ever want to learn this, like, I'll show you, like, in a heartbeat.
General interest.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, who knows? Like, all I know is if she wants to, like, I'm game. You know what I mean?
Right.
I could never be one of those, like, jealous parents that, like when the kid starts to almost being better, like, I want her to be better than me.
Right.
Like, if you want to make beats, I'll give you all the opportunity that any knowledge I have, it's yours. Like, I'm just excited to see what she does in general. She's just really dope.
So how does it feel to know you're special and extremely loved?
Well, I mean, if that's the case, I feel extremely blessed. I don't think I've heard that too much, but I don't know. Special is kind of a funny word, right? Like, I mean, I hope I am. But as far as extremely loved, I would say that's a huge blessing, because I've always been the type to just pay it forward in general. I had so many people that helped me become who I am, and throughout both the music and radio side, and so I just try to give that love back. So if that's, you know, if that's what I'm getting in return, then I'll take it. You know, it feels good. All right, y'all. I am Squeek Boogie. That was my 5, and if you made it this far into the video, I appreciate your time. Thank you for having me.
And there you have it. Man, shout out to my brother Squeek Boogie, you know what I'm saying? I owe Squeek so much, man, him and Matlocks, because back in the day when they were doing Friday Night Flavas, you know, they had me on the show, and I remember I sent them a couple joints on MySpace. This is the MySpace days, and they really dug them. And I remember at the time I was working on my debut album, Melodic. You know, shout out to Trellmatic out there in Milwaukee. Jimmy actually is the one who engineered it. And this was probably like back in, I want to say like 04, 05, maybe, no, I think it was 05. And so they had me on the show, and they played the record. We had a record called Someday. It was a Donny Hathaway sample, I remember, and they played it on the show. And you know, I remember my mom, you know, she was able to record it. And you know, I remember going to her house, and you know, we were listening to it, and it was just an awesome moment. You know what I mean? It's something that I'll never forget, man. And you know, man, it's just truly an honor to have you on the show, my brother. You know, Squeek is definitely a legend out here, someone who I personally feel just deserves a lot of praise. And you know, I'm so happy we're able to have you on this platform. And this is my way of paying you back, my brother. So I wish you nothing but the best and nothing less at all. Make sure you guys are following him on social media. And shout out to my brother Jimmy Nelson on the camera. Make sure you guys subscribe to that YouTube channel. Tell a friend to tell a friend. All right. It's been windy as hell today out here in Phoenix. It's been driving me and Jimmy nuts, but that's a whole other story. Well, this was definitely one for the books. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, though. Until next time, stay tuned, stay blessed, stay healthy, and just give me 5, y'all.
Everything you get, you got